Thank you, Mr. Hiranandani. I would now like to invite Abhijit Kumar, Director, CAF India, onto the stage to deliver the keynote address. Abhijit Kumar has more than 20 years of in the development sector, teaching and research. He has extensive experience in designing CSR strategies for several companies. Avijit has been invited to prestigious forums and events across the country to share his knowledge on various social development sector issues, including the World CSR Congress, CII and UNICEF Conference on Swachh Bharat Abhiyan, NASSCOM Technology Roundtable, to name a few. May I request Mr. Kumar to deliver the keynote address, please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you so much for your kind words. It's an honor for me, on behalf of Charities Aid Foundation, to be part of this very important conclave. And what I have with me is a couple of slides. Basically, when we are looking at employee investments beyond annual increments, Charities Aid Foundation has a solution, has an offering, has a product, and I would want to share that. Some of you may have seen the 2-3 minutes of video that is being played around. What I'm not going to talk about is how important are employees for an organization and why investment in employees are important or needed, because I know that people who are here in this room are converted. They know, and that's the reason why we are having this kind of conference. But what I'm going to talk about, as I said, is an offering that has demonstrated assured high impact and rate of returns to companies who have desired and decided to go with employee investment beyond increments. And it relates to workplace philanthropy. It relates to, it's called employee giving, it's called payroll giving, as many of you would be familiar with. The offering is very simple. It has a humanistic component to it, and the belief is, before we are an employee, we are a human being, and therefore, what do we seek as a human being? Mainly happiness, mainly satisfaction, mainly self-fulfillment, in a larger sense, not in the sense of my outputs and my KRAs and the achievement versus the job description that has been given to me. So the overall, obsession is, how can I be happy? Am I really happy? And how can I make the others around me happy? And is there a way to do that? Because there is an incongruity that we see, and many of you would agree to it, is that the routine work that an employees are made to do, for fair reasons of course, generally generates a feeling of alienation, powerlessness, anonymity, very mechanical in my operations. I don't feel where I am, my positioning and all that. Basically, I feel that I am part of a faceless mass which is toiling away for corporate mission. So this means to an end, to me as an employee, or a cog in a wheel kind of a thing, creates that disturbance, creates that unpleasant. And the offering that we are giving is something which will reduce this, which has reduced this. And there are researchers across the world, globally, nationally, and from the kind of work that we have done, we have sort of seen it happening on the ground, which reduces this and brings in the sense of fulfillment, satisfaction, happiness, and a better connect amongst employees and between employees and the employer. We call it the Give As You Earn program. But before I move to that, I will a little bit about who we are and what we do. We are a non-profit based out of UK. In India, we are about 18 years old. The obsession is, how do I connect people who want to give, or organizations who want to give, to communities or people who need it. So our mission is to promote and support strategic giving towards more equitable society. Currently, we are working with 300 corporates and about 220,000 individuals in 23 states, and we've mobilized about 222 crores. Uh, Some of the services that we are offering to the companies are basically on the CSR, and I would focus on the red bit, which is the payroll giving, give as you earn program. So we are into individual giving, volunteering, CSR advisory, grant making, program management, NGO due diligence, and all that stuff. But my focus will be today on the give as you earn program. We don't limit ourselves to a particular cause. We are cause agnostic, so to say, and we are open for any and every cause that people would want to contribute or the employees would want to contribute to. This is a small slide in terms of what we did, the kind of mobilization that we did around the different thematic areas. But when we come back to the topic, when we said broadly picturing, the employee-employer relationship, what do they want, their expectations, various vis-a-vis the delivery, and this is not a comprehensive side, but satisfaction, salary, appraisals, pride, acknowledgement is something that we as an employee would always want to look out, forward to. And employers, of course, are looking at productivity, team building, retention, how to, the profitability, revenue growth, and all that. So payroll giving program is actually a program where the employees, once the company agrees to sign up to the payroll giving program, then the employees of the companies are approached, and those who are willing to contribute, it could be part contribution in terms of salary as low as 200 rupees or 250 rupees per month, or it could be contribution in terms of volunteering, community engagement, donating time, abilities, skills, knowledge, whatever be the contributions form, we are trying to make that connect happen. So very easy in terms of what you want to give and how you want to give. There is a tax benefit, so there's a tax exemption that goes to the employees. And employees have the flexibility to choose. They can choose the NGOs, they can choose the cause. For the companies, if I look at, it complements your CSR. I mean, if you match the employee contribution, you qualify for your 2% CSR compliances. And then there is this technologically enabled platform which we have created to manage the whole back end and the operations of the payroll giving program of a company. And the right-hand side boxes are the services that we are providing. So it is not just mobilizing money, but it's also taking full accountability with what happens with that money in terms of, what the donors or the employees are expecting from that contribution that they are making. So reports, monitoring of the ground, what kind of benefits are going to the communities. And all of it, we are very conscious of the legal compliances. We are conscious that we need to do due diligence of the NGOs, which are the receivers here, and full accountability of the money getting transacted. This is a small slide of the framework with which we operate. So we are designing programs around your employees' contribution. We are choosing NGOs. We are doing a due diligence of those NGOs, and we are designing an annual engagement calendar of the employees, the company, and the nonprofits and the communities. We are doing launches and the whole program delivery. So the money which is mobilized is then converted into a program and then delivered on the ground. Monitoring, reporting, and a whole lot of communication around that process. This is the slide on the impact that we have made in the last 5 years. So you click about 132,000 employees have signed up. We have some 2,500 NGOs.
So can I request you to start, Soundararajan, in terms of the topic, your anecdotes and and what you wish to say about the topic.
Yeah, thank you. Employees come for an organization having a lot of aspirations. I think if salary is going to be the predetermined aspect, that's a significant aspect for an employee to come into an organization. I don't think so many new benefits, practices would have ever come into the organization. And with the change in times, with multi-generation people coming into the organization, the complexity has increased. And I was just going through a small article to understand what is the definition of a generation. Now, anybody has got any idea what generation we are in today? Anybody? Which generation is currently in employment today? Pardon? Gen Y. What else? Millennials? Pardon? Alpha. Good. What else? Who defined this generation? Why is it important? We need to understand what we mean by generation. In my opinion, in my experience, I have found generation is nothing but changing, evolving culture, evolving technology, evolving lifestyle, evolving environment in which people are born and grown. Therefore, there is no definition, actually speaking. There is a generation X, Y, Z, and millennial. It's all somebody propagated, and we start following it. So if there is no definition of generation, how will you address their aspirations? That's point number one. And I also look deep into that to understand what generation expect. Any generation, current generation, if you have an organization which has got, say, born in 60s, born in 70s, born in 80s, each one will be different. And in each generation, if you are to look at the people that you are in the organization, their aspirations are going to be different. So I don't think we can straitjacket any practice for HR and say that, everybody will get good salary, or everybody will get commutation, everybody will get gym to work in the office, or everybody can afford to get flexi time. I don't think that's possible. And again, it goes on to see that industry practices are different. If you are in service industry, you can't afford to be in flexible timing. If you are in manufacturing, you can't afford to be. Maybe if you are in IT, yes, it is possible. So it's all contextual, it is all individual specific and their needs. And people come from different work life kind of environment, come from different economic strata, different geographical background, and therefore their needs and expectations are different. So I would look at HR has got a huge challenge in meeting this requirement to sustain retaining people and growing in the organization. So things have moved beyond salary, and things have started exploring, people have started exploring various new ways of rewarding and recognizing people and meeting their aspirations. And that is why it is going to be a complex subject to discuss this evening, but I am sure as panelists start adding their thoughts, we will kind of get some clarity at the end of the discussion. That's my initial thought I would like to share.
Thank you, Soundararajan. I think I'll go to Satya. Beyond compensation, aspirations, all of it. Your quick comments on the subject.
Thanks, Jacob. Good evening to all of you. I'm actually here to learn. You know why? The first point is that, like what people say, is that the life-saving drug also has an expiry date. Whatever that we talk about, several benefits, the programs, it is lived for a short while and then it dies down. As a group, that can we understand what is that one point or the one texture which makes this investment term into employee retention makes it longer? That's what that I would like to listen from the panelists as well as from you. The point number 2 is that HR manager is also an employee. First we are an employees, then HR managers. We do also have aspirations. We also do have a lot of things to talk about our own compensation, our own benefits, and how we get retained. So I would like to listen from all of you. Many of you are probably from HR fraternity, that what you think like an employee, not like an HR manager, as an employee, that what you think, and what is that we get out of you, that how to look at this whole complex issue. That's from my side, Jagat.
Thank you, Satya. So I think, expiry date of what we have been doing. I think, some of the things our own people talk to us, when we listen and say, yes, this is working, this is not working. And I think how do we really reinvent and how do we really innovate? And innovation can even be in a small way. So I think some of those things are things that, that we ponder on, we think on each day. Yeah, Dr. Murli, in terms of your thoughts on the subject.
Yeah, so I'll take off from what Soundarajan said. In terms of generations, I think it's the context which is changing. So we have to really focus on the context than talk about when people were born. So I think I also agree with that. From an investment standpoint, yeah, compensation has been, at least in the industry where I come from, compensation has been the single largest item in terms of expenses or investments. So that certainly is the focus, at least in the IT industry. We really have to ensure that we do a balancing act. Otherwise, it's going to hit your bottom line and top line and all of that. So compensation, designing compensation or coming up with attractive benefits for individuals, I think is a challenge. I call it as an art and science. What is happening, at least in the industry that I come from, is more and more people really want personalized compensation than looking at one size fits all. I think that's a big challenge, and especially we see that with people, younger people who are entering the workforce. So that is one thing that people who are in this function really worry about. How do I really make it a personalized thing where people have choice of actually designing their own compensation within certain limit? So that is something which we need to think about. Also, in terms of investments and going beyond compensation is what we are discussing. My view is cash is king. Today, at least the younger workforce is not really, they do value things which are beyond compensation, but cash is really the king. So these are two things that compensation CNB managers really struggle with.
Thank you, Murli. I think, something which is pertinent from what Murli said, very soon you'll have people, there are various sites where you can actually go and compare offers. And very soon you're going to have algorithms around offer letters. So you tell you, and they'll compare everything A to Z. Today you have, so many social media platforms are there for you to even know what actually they rate the company, they rate the interviewer. Glassdoor is one such example. So from that perspective, I think, moving on to a totally different industry, L&T. Dharmarajan, your views on.
Yeah. Good evening. My pleasure to be here. All the more in this beautiful hotel. This is built by L&T. So it's always happy. One is happy to be here. Now I have a little different perspective on this subject. So maybe a little different from the various the dimensions each of the other panelists mentioned. First of all, for me, annual increment is not an investment. Increments are operational expenditure. When we talk of investment, we are talking about something which is a capital expenditure, as we all understand, and that is a capex versus the opex. No, so capital expenditure here we are talking about expenditure on the human capital. How do you build the human capital? So really moving away from the HR glass and looking at it from the organizational leadership. What do we do? So the organization really is investing on people, on employees, on the human resource, because it is building capabilities. This is the investment. So if you are looking for a long run, if you are not a fly by night, you want to be a durable and sustainable player like us, 75-year-old company. What you do? You create long-term investments. I'll give you just few examples. We have, for example, we are a project organization. So we have an Institute of Project Management which trains project managers. We have construction skill institutes all over the country, 6 of them, where we train workmen and others for construction skills. We have an institute, the training center for engineering and technology and engineering applications only for high-end, defense and various other areas, very specific training. Similarly, we have very special institutes for many other areas, niche areas, plus various other kinds of programs. Why I am saying this? The idea here is to build a talent pool. So we are looking at workforce investment, not on a specific employee. Although the investment is done on an employee, and as you rightly mentioned, there is a win-win relationship because the beneficiary is the employee, and it's also the organization which is building a capability. So we are looking at in a collective sense the employee or the workforce, if I can put it like that. So this is one aspect of the investment to me, frankly. So this goes beyond your annual increments, and it applies, it kind of affects or impacts each and every employee. So coming to the main topic, as we saw from within the inside-in perspective of the increments straight away as an end result, or the investment on the benefits, etc., which we all again mentioned. Now, whole lot of the evaluation has happened on this, and it's nothing new. As the panelists mentioned, as a 38 years experience in HR, and we have seen this, the various the way this has evolved. I remember there's a cafeteria. Suddenly we said we had a very fixed structure, and then there was a cafeteria structure came, and we were all very excited. What is cafeteria? You move around, and there's a new novelty for us. And from then it has gone across many bridges, and a lot of water has flown under this. And so we have multiple kind of structures and different schemes available. But it's basically I would say the packaging which has changed the flavor, but the substance is the same. It is to enlarge and try to give what is really needed by the employee. Having said that, I am a strong believer in the Herzberg theory, the two-factor theory. Salary is not a motivator. Is only at best it prevents dissatisfaction. And when you have benefits which are tailored to the needs, maybe it prevents more of the dissatisfaction. It kind of it reinforces little stronger the association with the organization. But what really motivates the employee are the other issues which we all know: the role, the meaningfulness of the role, the kind of the job which the person is doing, the contribution which he can make, how much he can unleash his full potential, what learning opportunities he gets, what kind of technology is he able to handle, the front end technology, particularly the millennials, the young generation, Gen Y, are they able to get into the latest technology, and so things like that. And is there a fair system of feedback, fair system of rewards, a robust appraisal system, and is there a recognition? The whole lot which we the Gallups and the Hewitt's and Tower Watsons have made us all familiar with with their marketing push. We also know with our own experience what constitutes engagement. So that I think is probably more important, and the organization need to invest more in terms of in these areas, in your HR systems, processes, and all that goes with that, in your training expenditure, or making mentoring or coaching. It's everything else connected to giving this the engagement on the job or the satisfaction on the job. That investment is, I think, crucial, particularly if you are looking for to be a long-term player, like I said, L&T or many of the other companies. So this is, to me, more important than the compensation alone, which is at best it is a necessary requirement, but definitely not sufficient. But now moving forward, there's a bigger challenge. We have what we call as the high potential, or the A-listers, or the very high performers who really make the difference in an organization. Every organization has got them. They are available, either they are technology leaders, or they are marketing geniuses, or they are some finance whiz kids, or they have or just general leaders who make a big difference. And how do we really engage them? How do we really hold them? How do we retain them? How do we motivate them? So there's this concept of ring fencing this top group, that small percentage of the guys who really make the difference, the Virat Kohlis of the world who make the difference. How do we really ring? This is a bigger challenge to us, where you need, as he rightly mentioned, Mr. Jacob mentioned, it's about customization. It's very bespoke customization, very individualized customization, and we need to continuously throw them the challenges. We need to continuously give them the resources, the empowerment, and also the opportunities, plus all that they require to, the support they require. The investment on that, has become more important in today's this VUCA world, because they make a difference to the organization. So these are the various dimensions, as I would see, in terms of the investment on the beyond the increments.